It began as a simple idea: bring in a toad to fight a beetle. Less than a century later, that decision has created one of the most notorious biological invasions in the world. Introduced by human hand and now unrestrained by predators, the cane toad has spread across northern Australia like a living tide, reshaping entire ecosystems along the way. In daylight, a cane toad might look like an ordinary big frog. It's a large, warty, brownish toad, typically around 10 to 15 centimeters long, though some can grow much larger and weigh over 2 kilograms. They have big appetites, gobbling up insects and small animals. The cane toad's most infamous feature is the pair of porotoid glands on its shoulders. These glands ooze a milky poison, bufotoxin, that makes the toad highly toxic to would-be predators. A single bite can kill a snake, quoll, dingo, or even a dog from heart failure. Even the eggs and tadpoles are toxic. In their native range in Central and South America, this isn't a huge problem. Local predators have evolved to avoid or tolerate the toad's poison, and parasites and diseases keep the toad's numbers in check. But in Australia, this defense gave it a huge advantage over predators that tried to eat it. So how did this American toad end up in Australia? The tale starts in 1935 with a farming dilemma. In Queensland's sugarcane plantations, native cane beetles were destroying crops by eating the roots of the cane. Pesticides had limited success, so growers and scientists sought a biological fix. They decided to import the cane toad in the hope it would eat the beetles. In June 1935, about 100 cane toads were brought from Hawaii and bred in captivity. Later that year, around 2,400 young toads were released into the cane fields of North Queensland. The expectation was that these pest-killing amphibians would devour the beetles and save the crops. It did not go as planned. The cane beetles stayed high up on the sugarcane stalks, out of the toads' reach, and the toads largely ignored the pests. Instead, they fed on plenty of other insects and began multiplying. Experts had warned the toads might become an even worse pest. And they were right. The population exploded and the invasion began. The cane toads failed to save the sugar crop, but succeeded in creating an ecological disaster that Australia still wrestles with today. Once cane toads gained a foothold, they spread rapidly across northern Australia. With no predators or diseases to stop them, their numbers swelled and their range expanded year by year. Cane toads reproduce in astounding numbers. A single female can lay tens of thousands of eggs, which quickly turn into swarms of tadpoles and tiny toadlets within weeks. What began with a few dozen toads turned into a spreading plague. Within a couple of decades, cane toads had overrun most of Queensland and were pushing westward. By the late 20th century, they reached the Northern Territory. By the early 2000s, they entered Western Australia's Kimberley. The invasion front even accelerated over time. The toads at the leading edge evolved longer legs, allowing them to hop farther. They now advance by as much as 50 to 60 kilometers per year. Today, millions of cane toads inhabit Australia's tropical north, and they continue to colonize new areas despite all attempts to halt them. The impact of cane toads on Australia's ecology has been disastrous. The main reason is their poison. Bufotoxin, a powerful poison from their shoulder glands, is lethal to many native animals that try to eat them. As a result, wherever cane toads spread, a wave of native animal deaths follows. Predator species have been hit hardest. Northern quolls, small spotted marsupials, have nearly disappeared in areas overrun by cane toads. Large reptiles like goannas and some snakes have been decimated. Most die soon after toads arrive. Even crocodiles have been victims. freshwater crocodiles in some billabongs were found dead with cane toads in their jaws. It's not just wildlife, even dogs have died after biting a toad. The poison acts quickly, causing convulsions and heart failure. By wiping out so many predators, cane toads throw ecosystems off balance. When monitors and snakes vanish, the populations of their prey, such as rodents and insects, may increase without control. At the same time, cane toads compete with native fauna for food and habitat. They consume vast numbers of insects and invertebrates, meals native frogs, lizards, and birds rely on. They also poison aquatic ecosystems. Even cane toad eggs and tadpoles are toxic, so animals that would normally eat frog spawn may die if they mistake them for food. In summary, the cane toad's arrival causes local declines of native species and cascades of secondary effects. An animal that Australian predators once saw as just another frog has instead become a deadly trap in the food web. Over time, some native animals have begun to adjust in surprising ways. Certain birds, like crows and kites, have learned how to safely eat cane toads by flipping them over and pecking only at the soft belly, avoiding the poison glands. In this way, they consume a toad's insides without taking in much poison. Some mammals are catching on too. Conservationists have helped train endangered northern quolls to stay away from cane toads by feeding them tiny pieces of toad. The quoll gets sick but survives and remembers the unpleasant taste. Afterwards, it won't touch a live cane toad. On the evolutionary front, scientists have observed changes in some snake populations where toads have long been present. Snakes with smaller heads, and thus smaller mouths, are less able to swallow a big cane toad, making them less likely to receive a fatal dose of poison. Over time, more snakes in these areas have smaller jaws, a case of natural selection helping them cope with the invader. One native snake, the keelback, was already resistant to cane toad poison and can eat small toads with little harm. This makes it one of the few predators that benefit from this abundant new food. Even freshwater crocodiles adapt. Some bite off only the hind legs, avoiding the most toxic parts. These adaptations, whether learned behaviors or evolutionary shifts, offer a glimmer of hope. Australia's wildlife is slowly finding ways to cope with the cane toad, even if they'll never eliminate the threat entirely. Australians have tried many tactics to combat the cane toad. In communities across the north, volunteers regularly organize toad-busting nights. They head out with torches and gloves to collect cane toads by the bucketful. During these events, hundreds or even thousands of toads might be collected and later euthanized. Toad busting can locally reduce numbers, for example, in a backyard or a small reserve, but it's like pulling weeds. It doesn't stop new toads from re-invading. On the scientific front, researchers have explored a range of possible controls. They've searched for a biological control method, perhaps a virus, bacteria, or parasite, that could infect and kill cane toads without harming native species. None has been deployed yet. Specialized traps have been developed to catch cane toad tadpoles by using the toad's own chemical signals as bait. More radical ideas involve genetics. Some scientists have proposed gene editing cane toads so they produce only male offspring. Others suggest editing them so they never mature past the tadpole stage, meaning they'd breed less and even eat each other's eggs. These high-tech solutions remain experimental and are not ready for use. In practice, efforts today focus on slowing the cane toad's spread and limiting its damage. Quarantine checks and public awareness aim to prevent cane toads from being accidentally moved to new areas. Conservation programs like the quoll taste aversion training help at-risk native predators adapt. There's also debate about how to deal with toads ethically, ensuring that culling methods like cooling, freezing, or CO2 minimize suffering. The harsh reality is that cane toads will probably never be removed from Australia. They are simply too widespread. The goal now is to manage their numbers and protect the most vulnerable ecosystems as best as possible, knowing that this invasive species is here to stay. Despite their destructive role in Australia, cane toads aren't evil. They're simply animals in the wrong environment. The havoc they cause is the result of human intervention, not their own nature. The cane toad invasion of Australia is a major cautionary tale. A well-meant introduction meant to control pests spiraled into an ecological disaster. Cane toads spread far and wide, killed huge numbers of native animals, and proved impossible to get rid of. Yet, amid the damage, there have been signs of resilience. Some native species are adapting, and Australians have fought to limit the harm, but the lesson is clear. It's far better to prevent invasive species from being introduced than to deal with them afterward. Today, cane toads are firmly established, and the country has had to adapt to that reality. Their story stands as a reminder to approach our environment with care, because when we get it wrong, the consequences can last for decades. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay curious and keep exploring.